And what time is that one?
We'll get a reminder. I want to say 11. Connie Wardenburg. Connie, I've made you the host.
Okay.
So you'll be able to share your screen, and Galvin's admin is printing a listing contract so she can follow along. When we're doing a list of recommended people to work with, for like a stager, do we have to have 3 people, or is it just like when we're talking about lenders and inspectors and things like that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
But I only have one stager.
You should have more than one. Two's fine.
I'm working on building it.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you're going to give out names and everybody else, you got 2, 3, or 4, and then you give out one, that's not good. Okie dokie. We're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Share the screen. I hope this works. I want to do multiple participants can know. One participant can share at a time. Okay. Then first off, I want to go to the agent checklist for listings loop. This is what it tells you. These are required forms for, it should not be dot loop, it should be for command. I'm sorry, I pulled up the wrong one. But first off, you have to have the listing contract. If they have marked that they're going to have a disclosure, you need to have the seller's disclosure and whatever other things are applicable to them. I do want to remind everybody that the lakes and ponds and pools refer to homes, not to condos. You don't have to use those extra disclosures for condos. You use the condo disclosure for that. So lakes and ponds and wells and sewers and all that kind of stuff does not have to be included with condominiums that you list. An inventory, everything that conveys with the property needs to be itemized, even kitchen appliances. It's going to be written in the special agreement section of the listing or on a separate sheet that's attached. Of course, the lead-based paint, we all know you should have in your office or your car, however you handle it, or your briefcase, the lead-based paint brochure, along with the MREC disclosure that you can hand to people when you first show a house that is built before 1978, or when you first meet someone to give them the MREC disclosure. And then we'll need that lead-based paint disclosure signed prior to signing a listing agreement. The MLS sheet and the measurement disclaimer. And then of course, as needed forms, condo supplement, again, that water well, lakes, ponds, pool, hot tubs do not need to be in there if it's a condo. You do that with a condo listing to the supplement. So that's the one thing I wanted to go over is what we need. Now I'm going to go to go to the seller's agency listing contract. First off, you should know how the people, how it was titled in their name. Is it an LLC? Is it in the husband's name? If it's in the husband's name, it also has to have the wife's name there, even if she's not on the warranty deed. Of course, the LLC and who all's there. Then we're going to have the address of the property. Well, of course, appoints, and you use one of our fictitious names, Keller Williams, Four Seasons Realty, or like the Ozarks Realty. The date that the contract expires. I strongly suggest you do 6 months, but in this hot market, if you want to do 1, 2, or 3 months, that's fine. The price that the seller wants for the property, which includes the commission that he's going to pay, because the commission is based on this sales price. I very seldom put in here owner shall consent to disclose the following terms unless they really want to. Going through divorce, have to sell quickly, whatever. But this time, with our sales the way they are, it doesn't seem to me that you need to put a reason for them selling. And again, here on line 18, this is very important. This is the amount of commission that they're going to pay. If it's 6%, then you need to put the percent sign, not just the 6. Again, I want to remind you guys that our minimum commission is 6% on lakefront homes and condos. And other homes and condos, it's 8 on lots and lands. There's $1,000 minimum. So if you list a $500 lot, they need to pay $1,000 commission. Do not put a percent in there if it's less than $10,000, because that won't be enough money to cover the commissions. $1,000 minimum on all, 6% without okay from me on homes, condos, and 8% on lots, lands, and commercial. I always put down here 180 days, which is 6 months. So this is saying that if the seller sells it to someone you've identified and showed the property to while the listing was in effect, they still owe you a commission. I've seen some people put 30 days. You can put whatever you want, but why not cover yourself for 6 months? Someone could wait 30 days really easily to go ahead and buy it directly from the seller and not pay a commission. This fee right here, if you have admins that you're paying to do work, or maybe you're getting professional photography done, you might want to put a percent in here, or not a percent, an amount, $250, $350, $450, whatever it is, that they're going to pay you directly, and usually it's only if on the same day that other compensation above is provided. If they're not paying you, it needs to be NA and not applicable. These are very important. This is how we compensate other agents. Be very aware that we do not work with sub-agents. That's always a 0 or not applicable. We usually split 50-50 with the buyer's agent or the transaction broker. I've seen some agents that might take a 6% listing and do 3% to the buyer's agency and 2.5% to the transaction broker. I'll leave that up to you. I normally do 3 and 3. This you check only if offer of compensation is not available to brokers other than the MLS participants. So in other words, you will not compensate an agent outside of our MLS. I never check that. Some people are doing that, and I'm going to leave it up to you, but the seller has to know that we will not work with agents that do not belong to our MLS. Or if they want to exclude, if they want to exclude a certain agent or a broker, maybe they don't like someone and they actually can't exclude them. Motivational factors, make sure that if you mark does, that you come down on line 53 and say, what is the motivational factor? I've had agents that mark does, but then doesn't say what it is. So I normally always mark does not. I don't think it's, I can't think of too many instances where it's a good thing to disclose why they want to sell. I always say that does permit the realtor to disclose the existence of multiple offers, and I always put does permit to disclose the terms of the offers provided, however, that realtors are permitted to disclose such terms as may be required by the MLS. I put does and does because it says does permit. Doesn't say you have to do that, but it says does permit. With multiple offers, I think it's really important that we disclose that. And sometimes it's to the benefit of the seller to disclose what those terms are. Not very often, but sometimes. But it says does. So I would leave that there, and I would discuss that with my seller before I would disclose that. We do not accept love letters. This is new on our thing. A love letter is where the buyer would write a letter to the seller saying, oh, I love your house. I've got 3 small children and I love the backyard. This could go into HUD problems, so we do not disclose. That is come down from NAR. So I want you to say always does not. And of course, are they already represented by another broker? Maybe they came to you and said, my listing expires in 2 weeks. They can do that. They can talk to you up front. If it is, you'd say is, and then you would put here the date that it becomes available to be listed with you. Typically, that is not. They're not listed with someone else. The property data form, if they are completing a seller's disclosure, you're going to say does. There are some instances where the seller's disclosure, maybe they inherited this from their grandmother and they know nothing about the property, so they really can't fill anything out. So you'd say does not in that case. But typically you want them, if they can, if they have knowledge of the property, to fill out that seller's disclosure. It's a protection for them and for you and for the buyer. And of course, we go down to lead-based paint, says check 1 or 2. It is exempt, and I usually put built in 1980 or whatever, or it's not exempt. So if it was built before 1978, the lead-based paint disclosure has to be filled out at the time you are writing this listing agreement, so it goes along with it, and it's signed the same date as they signed the listing. This is very important because if HUD comes in and checks our lead-based paint, and they see that you took the listing on the 1st, but the seller didn't sign the lead-based paint disclosure, or you didn't sign it until the 2nd, you are out, you're in violation, and there's a $15,000 fine per occurrence. I've never seen that we have any foreign people, so that's a no. This is if they're going to put lock boxes on, and if we're going to advertise it, they're going to allow for inspections. Recording within the property, you want to let people know, owner understands recording, remote monitoring, and transmitting auto may result in a violation of state and local federal laws. So they have to be very careful if they're taking pictures. Warranty, they either offer a home warranty, not offer a warranty, or consider a later date. I would at least say consider it a later date, but I want to encourage you guys to explain how important the protection of a homeowner's warranty is for a seller. So maybe they're going to end up offering one and it's going to cost them $500 or $600, but that warranty can protect them down the road for much bigger problems. Of course, we are a franchise disclosure. And then the following, if you are on a team, the shared wig team, you would write the shared wig team here, because everyone on that team would become a designated agent, and then you would have me sign it here. If you are an individual, you would put your name here, and I would sign that you are the designated agent. I think we all know by now what the designated agency is. And then, of course, this is what we can do. We can convert to dual agent. We can convert to designated agent. Transaction broker. I normally say no on this, but it can either be yes or no. It's never not applicable because we do offer that. But I had trouble becoming a designated transaction broker and not working with the people. And of course, I'm going to sell my Aunt Mary's house. I'm going to put my name in here, and that an immediate family member of the seller is who I am, or it's my house. I am a part of this transaction, a principal of the seller. So you have to disclose if you have a relationship, a familiar relationship with the seller, or it is your own. Special agreements. This is one I had trouble getting everybody to do, because again, we've talked about when we're signing a listing agreement, we're saying that we're selling the real estate at 123 Main Street. That does not include necessarily all of the appliances and the garage door openers and that kind of stuff. Maybe the seller is going to take all that out. So here's where you want to put the following list of personal property is included in the sale of this as a convenience to the seller at no value to the buyer, and list out range, refrigerator, dishwasher, garbage disposal, washer, dryer, garage door opener, window treatments, whatever is personal property, you should put on here so there's no misunderstanding with the seller of what he is selling. He's not just selling the house, but he's selling the deep freeze downstairs or the washer and dryer or whatever, or he's not. But at least it's on here and it says what he is selling. If there's a furniture list, I would say see attached furniture list, and I would have that furniture list taken by you and have the seller sign it that he agrees to what's going along with the property. We never check this, never. 279. And the effective date is typically the date that everybody signs it, including me as a listing agent. If my seller signed it on the 1st and I signed it on the 2nd, the 2nd's when it goes into effect. This would be if they don't want to put it in the MLS at this time, or you're waiting for another listing to expire before it goes in, and of course you're putting your name, email address, and all that kind of stuff in there. Carol, are you here? Do you have any questions? Carol, do you have any questions? That has nothing to do with the listing agreement. That's on the sales contract. So the listing agreement is strictly the seller is listing the property with you, so you can sell the property, and then when the inspections come along with the sales contract. The lowest that I will allow is 6 and 8 on lots and land. If you need to go lower than this, you have to get an okay from me in writing, and it's got to have a pretty good reason for me to lower it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 6%, $1,000 minimum. A lot of agents forget that. They go list a little $5,000 lot and they put 8%. Well, 8% of $5,000 is $400. So we don't want to do that. We want $1,000 minimum. Yeah. So we do not take love letters. Love letters are something that that we used to use a lot, and I've used it myself. Telling the sellers, telling the sellers or the buyers that write them a letter and tell them how much you love the house. The problem is, in doing that, they're liable and most likely to disclose that they are one of those classes of people that we cannot discriminate against. And we can't tell a buyer that this is a family. We can't tell the buyer that they're of a different ethnic group or they're a different religion. Say I had a Jewish couple that wanted to sell their home. They only want to sell to Jewish people. They can't do that. We sell to anybody. We can't discriminate. Mm-mm. Especially if it's a seller's choice. If a seller tells you that I won't sell to this kind of people, you walk away from the listing, because that's a huge lawsuit and maybe jail time. Yeah, they come after you, and believe me, they do come after you. They said because people were doing it, and now they're saying we're not allowing it. Let me go to the authorization to show. If you have a fee that's going directly to you as the agent because you have an admin or something special that you're doing for this buyer, above and beyond the 6% commission, you can put that in there. If there's no fee, then you put NA. I'm going to open up the authorization to show. Oops, that's not it. Authorization to show. Of course, we all know that you cannot show a piece of property if it's not listed. That would be listed in the MLS, or you have a listing. You at least have to have an authorization to show. This is usually the reason for this is that this is the Missouri Real Estate Commission law, and I have a buyer and there's a for sale by owner. I call that for sale by owner and say I have a buyer's agency with a buyer who would be interested. Will you pay my commission? You put that in there, his address. This is not longer than 30 days. The price of the property, and then the percent of commission, which should be 3. Because you are working with the buyer, you're not listing it. This is not a form that puts you in as a representative of the seller. He's not your client. He's not your customer. He's just allowing you to sell it, but it's a law that you get this signed if it's not listed with someone else. We don't have a whole lot of stuff to go over on this. That's up to you. I always say we can. My thought is I don't like to deal with agents that aren't part of our MLS, which means I have to go and lock the house for them and let them in, and they know nothing about the lake, and I have to do their work and my work too. There are some companies that don't do it at all, but we at least need to, we're working for our seller, and my seller, you know, if I have an agent from St. Louis that's not a member of the MLS and he calls and says, I've got a buyer, it's my mother, she wants to come down and look at this house, I want to represent her, I would allow that, you know. Yes. No, everybody belongs to MLS. It's a realtor. To our MLS.
And so that's
It's yours and your seller's choice. And you'd want to explain that to him, why you are or are not allowing them to do it. Mr. Seller, I'm not allowing them to do it because they come down, they know nothing about the lake. And but you also could put on there that you're going to give them a lesser commission. You could put on there that I only give them a 2% commission or 1.5% because you're doing all the work. You know, I got a house down on 135.3 that I have to go let somebody in, and I have to spend 2 hours on the road just to let them in because they cannot get into our lock boxes. I want to be compensated for doing that because I'm doing their work too. There's a lot of different things. I want to remind everybody too, because this happened a couple times here recently, that when you take a listing and you put that you're going to give the buyer's agent 3% and the transaction broker 3% and nothing to the subagent because we do not do subagency. When you put that into the MLS, if you mark that you're going to give that buyer's agent 3.5%, you're going to lose 0.5% of your commission. Because whatever you put in that MLS sheet is how they're compensated. So when they look at that MLS sheet and it says, let me pull up an MLS sheet just to make sure I can show you this. Right down here, and when you enter it in MLS, it says I'm going to give a buyer's agent 3%, sub-agent nothing, and a transaction broker 3%. If I put 3.5 here, that means I have to give them 3.5. If I have $1,000 commission on the listing and I say I'm going to give them $750, I'm going to give them $750. Whatever's on here is what is what you have told that agent that you're going to pay. This all has to be correct, so double check it. I had one agent several months ago that normally did a 7% commission, so she put 3.5 on here, which is half of the 7, and it actually ended up being a 6% commission that she took, and then she got a contract, and she had to pay that extra 0.5% of her side. Whatever's here is what they tell you they're going to give them. Do I have any other questions? Carol, are you there?
She said that her mic isn't working, but she.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you have anything, Elise, that you want to ask?
I do not. I will admit I forgot my handy dandy contract binder, so I didn't get to take the notes I wanted to.
Okay.
But if you guys don't have like an example blank contract, I would recommend sitting down with Connie and writing one, because I don't have to be hesitant about the way I write my contracts, because I have one that Connie and I have written notes on that tells me where I need to fill things in.
I will advise you to make sure that if you fill out an example, because every time it's different.
Sure. Yep.
That you just don't automatically, because that can get you in trouble, automatically put on there what you had on the last one. You want to make sure that they are filled out. Guys, it's just makes sense to me when you are filling out a contract. I don't care what kind of contract it is, whether it's a contract or a listing agreement. When you're going through this, that's what you fill out. It tells you right here, this is the owner's name, fill it out. This is who we're working for. Keller Williams Lake, this is the address. This is when it expires. This is the amount. I mean, if you just tab through to the next one, it lets you know that you've got to fill these things out. Again, this is NA if you're not charging an upfront fee. And then not applicable. So if you fill this out, this is on Forms or Us, whether you're doing it there or DocuSign or however you do it, it will walk you through if you just tab where you need to fill out. And when it says check only if applicable, that's what you do, only if that's applicable. Offer of compensation is not available to brokers other than our MLS participants. Or excludes the following specific brokers or otherwise limited, explain why. Check 1, does or does not. That's true of all these. So you check 1. It says check 1, check 1. Here it says check 1. They are or not party to another contract. You check 1. So when you walk through this, it's going to actually just walk you through everything. And if you read the contract as you're doing it, you're going to know what the answers are. Was this house built before 1978? Yeah, it was built in 2000. And I usually put reason here, built in 2000. You don't have to do that, but it doesn't hurt to do that. Or it needs lead-based paint. It's not a foreign fare. Right. If it says 4 days, if none stated, you don't need to fill that in. Consider it a later date. So I would always consider it a later date. We are always a member of a franchise. That always has to be filled in. Again, your name or your team's name, and then I need to sign this to designate you. So these are all things, yeah, you've got it filled out with questions, but if you just, wherever you're at, unless you're writing it, print it out or writing it, it's just go through one line at a time and make sure you fill it out completely. If we don't have any other questions, we are going to talk on Wednesday about advertising rules. I hope we have a good crowd, because I think it's important that you realize we've seen several ads on Facebook and different places where you are not doing your ads correctly. And that means, as you all know, that any form of advertisement, if you have your phone number on it, it has to have the office phone number on it. And no matter what, you always have to have the company name on all forms of advertising. So if it's in Facebook or whatever, it can't be Connie Wardenburg. I've got this house for sale. It's got to be Connie Wardenburg with Keller Williams Realty. If I have my phone number on, I have to have our phone number on also. So we'll talk to you on Wednesday if there's nothing else you guys want to talk about. You have questions?